I consider this video one of the most important videos in this car. This car is very famous to have a starter problem. What is starter problem? W168, what the W169. You switch on the car, you try to start the car doesn't start. This car doesn't start, have so many scenarios. I'm gonna go through all of it to make you save your money and save your headache. It's always nice to keep diagnostic inside the car as I keep it here. Besides, you have to know which kind of fuses you have. You have the big ones here and you have relays. Which one is for the battery and for the starter, which one is for the fuel pump, everything. I'm gonna speak about it. Always have multimeter, or like what I have here, the battery diagnostic. This is a chart showing all the fuses and what is it for. I'm gonna put it in the link in description of the video, what's the part numbers also for the relays especially. So starting problem in W168, 169. Let's just concentrate on the Mercedes now. I'm not going to talk about the other cars. After you make sure that your car have the original key with the chip functioning, go back to my videos to resynchronize your keys, make sure that it's synchronized with the car and everything's okay. So problem number one, the engine doesn't rotate when you try to switch on the key. Why this happen? Generally, this happens when you have loose battery connections, like somebody play with it or get loose by time, or it get corroded, so the electricity not going to from the battery to the car itself. So this is a main cause. It can also be that the battery is discharged. So how to solve this? Make sure that your battery terminals are clean without any corrosion and they are tight. They're not moving at all. They are really tight, and not to break it also. You just make sure that everything is okay. This is the main screw that connected. The battery is discharged or empty battery. This will gonna show it now how to. I'm just addressing the problem of the engine even fail to start. Either you don't have the lights there, or you have very small weak lights and try to start the engine and it doesn't work. So this is the main reason. Besides, if you have the lights on and try to the switch on the car, the starter may be the problem, but how to know if it's the battery or not? The problem here is that you have lines from the battery. This violet line is going to the battery, it's to the starter itself. So after I make sure that my battery terminals are okay, my battery is fully charged and still doesn't go on, I have to make sure that those wires are connected to the starter, that there is electricity going to the starter. How will I know that? So simple. No need to make like what I have. I have here light connected to the violet light. From the, it gives the positive, and from this light the negative goes to the negative terminal. So just in case I want to test it, I have the, let's say here, I have this negative edge of this bulb, which is connected the positive to the line going to the starter. I just hit it on the negative pole of the battery and it will light on, which means there is electricity going to the starter. Another simpler method, and it is standard, why you have good battery and terminals and you want to exclude that there is electricity going to the starter or not, it is the starter or not, switch on your full beam, your daylight beam, and try to start the car. If the beams dimmed or they get kind of like weaker, which means there is current going from the battery to the starter, and the starter is the problem. If the lights, while you are trying to switch on the car doesn't start and the lights are the same, you can ask help from somebody outside, and the car doesn't start and the lights stay the same intensity, which means there's faulty connection from the battery to the starter. So you don't rush to change the starter now, because changing starter in this car is a headache. So this means that the connection is faulty. Also, it can be the starter, but you have to know that the electricity going to the starter or not. So this is the first problem, the engine doesn't run. Now go to engine. Is the engine will like run, you'll hear it chick 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 chick, but it will never start, which means the electricity is going to the starter is trying to start the engine, but it doesn't start. What does it mean? This means that you either have no benzene or no diesel. You have no diesel at all. If it starts very weak, like the car start like chick 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 chick, this means also that the battery is weak. This battery is weak because the ignition should be very strong, especially if it's diesel car. You really have to have stronger ignition in this one. And careful for this fault, because if the car run but very weak running, like if it goes like chick 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 and it doesn't work, usually it is the fuel injection. If it's very weak, it means the battery is wrong or the wiring is loose. And this is a huge problem. You have really to check every fuse and everything in your car before you do anything. Also, if the car start but the engine turn around but it doesn't start, also it can be the spark plugs. It's either like too old or very like filthy, or it's wrong gap, the wrong part number of the spark plugs. This problem you have to really be very careful for that, because it includes the fuel being bad, the battery being discharged or old, and the terminals are getting loose. The circuit, as I said, to the starter is loose or damp. Sometimes it gets humid or like water get into the electrical components. Also, sometimes it's the fuel injection system, that the injectors are not giving the right amount of the fuel and the fuel mix, and sometimes there is air in the fuel system, especially if you have empty tank or leave it to run dry. You leave it to run dry. The third problem, it's the engine cold. Engine it cold, it's really difficult to start, but when it's warm it runs perfectly smooth. Again, this is mainly the battery. If the engine is when it's cold very difficult to start, it's the battery. Again, either discharged old battery or the connections. As I say, you have to make sure, that's why I started with it, make sure all the connections are okay and connected good without any corrosion. And you have also like the clean system. That's why to make your fuel system clean, always don't let it run lower than half tank. Always half tank and fill up, so you don't have the contaminations going from the tank to the fuel pump itself, blocking the fuel filter and then the ignition system. So you always make sure that you have everything new, everything replaced on interval services, including the fuel filter and the ignition system, and the battery also to be charged or brand new. I have video also for the fuel filter, you can check it out later. So let's go talk about now the engine's very difficult to run or start when it's hot. This is the main idea when you have the blocked air filter and the fuel injection system also, or other mechanical problems, which is very bad. So let's keep it when it's hot and it doesn't start. Either you have blocked the air filter in this car. The air filter, we talked about it. Also, you can see it in my other videos, how to change it. Make sure that it's sealed, no vacuum leak in it. And the fuel injection system, the main idea to put good quality benzene or fuel in it, and not to get it dirty by reaching half and less than half the tank. Now, my problem when in my car, in this car, that I start the engine, it's difficult and low, but once it start a little bit and then immediately stops. I have everything in new except the battery. The battery is 3 years old and it was used before, so I don't know how many like years before it was used. This is the main idea when you have the engine running and then stops. Usually the cause for this one, sorry, is either battery is having problem, or I have bad ignition sparks. The ignition sparks are not designated good, are not fitted good, or I have fault in the vacuum system. That's why you see me always cleaning and make sure that the vacuum system here, everything is running good. So I have everything good here, so sure it is the battery, and of course it is the battery because I already tested. Another problem, just to fill up the problems in this car, usually misfire or the engine idles like differently, is also related to the vacuum leaks, and if you have really one of the sensors having problem in it. If your car starts, but why it starts, the starter is very noisy, this means that the starter is getting either it is loose, that the screws that fix it in its place is loose, or you really have a very failing starter. This is a problem in the starter. As I started this video, I will end up with the start. I started with the engine fails to start when you try to attempt to exclude the starter things. This is the leaflet. In this car, you have to be patient with me. This is the laying of the relays and the fuses. The starter fuses, as you can see here, you have fuse F6, which is the fuel pump relay, fused to the relay itself, and the F8, which is the starter relay. If you are new to this car, just go to this box and exchange fuse number 6 and fuse number 8. Just replace it with the designated amperage. You have the leaflet here, and I'll make sure that I have it in the description section. Here you have F6 is 30 amperage and F8 is 30 amperage, so it's going to be green both, as you can see here. Just remove it and put new good fuses. Always change also the relay for the starter, which is the, after you change the fuses here, you make sure that the relays also in the fuse box immediately changed. Buy a new one and just change it. As you see here, we talk about F6, F8 and the R7. The R7 is this one, this new. You can see this is, those are old, and I have the new Bosch. Okay, the part number, let me just flip it back. The part number for this relay, as you can see, is A0025421319, and the other ones, they are the same, like the R7 and the R10 are the same, and R8 and R9 are the same. You can see here. Here, R7, this one, R7, the fuel pump relay, and R10 are the same, while the R9 and R8 are the same. The part number for R8 and R9 is A0025422519. I'll also put it in the description. This is the fuel pump relay. That's why I'm always like keen to changes to exclude getting into the fuel pump, because fuel pump is inside the fuel tank, and if you have any problem in that, you really have to take the fuel tank out of the car and fix this, and it's a very big, huge headache, the starter and the fuel tank issue. So just to make sure that everything's okay, we fix our battery, make sure it's clean, new, and the fuses related to it. There are other fuses also hidden here behind this carpet, and this is the diagram for it. And as you can see here, the R3 is for the starter. If you have any suspicion that the starter is problem, also change this R3. You'll see it in this design, and you'll see that it is the starter one, the one I line it with a green one. So how to test my battery? I think I will put the battery in a different section, because I don't want to make so long video. I'll make it in separate section, so you know that your battery is good or not, and what are the values, so you know that you have to change it or not. I hope you like this video. I hope you find it useful. I try to suffice the info about all the starter problems. the idea why I put this video, because I have a lot of questions about the same thing. Everybody's asking and you have different problems, so I try to summarize all the problems of the starter here. A lot of people really changed a lot of stuff. Sometimes the key they changed, especially in one W1669, which is very expensive, magnetic, and nothing, the problem still there. It was the starter, it's not about the key or the ignition. Please go back to my videos regarding the Mercedes and you will find most of the information. You will find it and you will or you need it. Hope you like this video. I'll continue about the battery in a separate video. For the meantime, hope you like it, share it, and ready for any comments. Bye bye.